Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, we've got a little something special for you. It's a wrestling podcast with a twist. WrestleMania was that huge. It was done over 2 days, and there's just too much content to cover. So what we've decided to do for this one is to do a WrestleMania roundup. That's right. Join myself, Stu, Matt, Paul, as we get into how great WrestleMania was and find out who came out on top, both in the matches and in the CookieCast predictions. I think you'll be surprised on that one. If you're checking us out on YouTube, then subscribe. If you're already subscribed, get someone else to subscribe. That's how it's going to work from now on. Pay it forward, people. If you're an audio listener, you can also subscribe. Don't feel like you're being left out. Wherever you get your podcasts, just subscribe and share and like and comment. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Getting Over podcast. Okay, go Stu.
Hello. Welcome along, everyone. We thought we'd just jump in a little bit earlier than normal with some WrestleMania roundup going on. So tonight we're going to go through some results from last weekend's events, and let's find out who is in possession of the Predictions Championship these days. So it wouldn't be getting over without the usual array of gentlemen you see before you on the YouTubes, or possibly are about to hear through your ear holes. So we've got Mr. Andrew Cook.
Hello!
Mr. Matthew Moore.
Hello!
And last, and certainly always least, Mr. Paul Williams.
Fuck you. Hi guys.
Oh!
You'd have thought after 32 episodes it'd be used to this by now, wouldn't you?
So I'll never get used to it.
I thought I'd kind of go through it match by match as it was on the night, and we'll kind of build up a picture as to where that Predictions Championship is heading. And because WrestleMania season, there will always be a little any other business situated right on the end. So we'll start where WrestleMania Night 1 started. So go get your brollies, lads. We've got a 30-minute rain delay now.
30 minutes? At least 45?
Well, I was trying to keep it tight for the podcast, Paul. Come on. So, eventually, after a little bit of inclement weather, we got an opener of Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE title. Paul already either has something to tell us or...
Well, obviously, the weather delay was a bit unexpected or unwelcome, shall we say. But one good thing that did come out of it was, I'm assuming we all watched the event and things like that. Did anyone see the Drew interview that obviously he had to do as part of the delay?
Yeah.
And obviously he was thinking on his feet, and obviously Lashley and MVP went off to a particular side of the camera, and he specifically told the interviewer that he didn't want to face the way that she was facing because he didn't want to turn his back to Lashley and MVP, which I thought was great. That was a really excellent sort of piece of storytelling. You shouldn't, because he wouldn't. If you were in a legitimate fight with someone, you wouldn't want to turn your back to him, would you? And it was just good that he sort of had that in his repertoire to actually pull that through. And I thought that was very good on Drew's part, and hopefully he got a little bit of kudos backstage for doing that.
There was a few good ones actually amongst that, considering that some of the ones that were there, obviously, before the matches even started, they were all stood out on the stage, whether they were night 1 or night 2, to sort of introduce themselves back to the live fans. And some of the night 2 guys even had a good, didn't they? Because I seem to remember Kevin Owens had a pretty prominent one as well. But yeah, as predictions go, for some definitely went better than others, shall we say. So ultimately, MVP cost Drew the match by distraction straight into the hurt lock and then passing out. So he almost pulled the old Stone Cold Bret Hart finish in the sense, just without the blood, I guess, in the sense of he's way too hard, way too much of a big man to actually tap out, but passed out and ultimately lost the match. A couple of us predicted that Lashley would win, and when I say us, I definitely do not mean me. So straight off the bat, that was Paul and Matt up by a point. Not a great start. Up next was the tag team turmoil match. Ravishing Glow were eliminated first, despite being picked by Paul and myself, so they clearly didn't prepare for WrestleMania by listening to this podcast. Do it properly next time, ladies, please. Thank you. Rain, as we mentioned, caused an issue throughout the night, and particularly for one Mandy Rose, who slipped on her arse on the way down to the ring, which is possibly the most replayed moment from WrestleMania Night 1, despite all the other things we're about to talk about.
Well, they've edited it out now.
What, her falling over?
Yes.
Ah.
Because I was watching it yesterday, and I was like, oh, here it comes. And then, no, they cut to the ring, I think, and you don't see it, or you see it. But it's stupid, because what it looks like is Dana Brooks wandered down to the ringside, and she's gone, she can fuck off. I'm going to wait here for a minute, and then kind of come down 5 seconds later. Yeah,
the worst part is, why edit it out when they made a big deal about it on the Raw the night after, and again, like, going forward? Strange decision. But I mean, it's not like the editing crew weren't going to stick around for that match on the basis of there was there was a couple of wardrobe malfunctions going on as well. So Dana Brooke getting a little bit too intimate with the live crowd at one point. Tamina and Natalya ultimately won the match after pinning the Riot Squad and moved on to the championship match on night 2. That match, we were all absolutely on fire by picking everybody that didn't win. So no points for anybody. It's all going so well.
It was. You were playing the percentages though, weren't we? So it made sense to pick the other. So.
Well, no, that's night 2. We'll get to that.
Sorry.
Rollins and Cesaro was the third match on the card, and as predicted, absolutely awesome match, I thought. Really enjoyed it. Definitely up there for one of the matches of the weekend, for sure. Highlighted by Cesaro busting out not only the UFO, which, for those that don't know, is essentially him having Seth Rollins up on his shoulders and spinning him around as fast as he possibly can without even holding on to him. It's just the momentum keeps him up there. It looked very impressive. And then, of course, busting out the swing. We mentioned it last time, the record of 22 swings for Mr. Cesaro. It's WrestleMania. He's going to do one more, isn't he? So he nailed 23 swings on Rollins and picked up his first singles victory at WrestleMania. And Matt was the only person who didn't think that would happen. So it was a point lost there.
That was the one where I spent a long time thinking about that one, didn't I? I think, if memory serves me right. But I think too much, get it wrong.
So we knew that Big E was going to be night 2, but he also made a little surprise appearance night 1, introducing his boys, the New Day, down to the ring. The old ring entrance was back to full standards, and introduced New Day for their match with AJ Styles and Omos. I think I had read something afterwards. There was something about a petition that had been going around online. Somebody Cook had started a petition about keeping New Day together for the weekend or something like that. But you can look that up yourself.
It's true. It's all true.
The gear that the New Day actually put together though was pretty cool. I don't know if anybody picked up on it. That it was all Tampa Bay Bucks themed, except for rather than the pirates like skull and crossbones on the flag, they had like a unicorn on one leg in the flag and like pancakes in the other flag on the other leg. So I thought that was pretty cool. As we all probably expected, really, really simple story. New Day were in control until the big man got into the ring, who then absolutely obliterated them. ended up pinning Kofi Kingston just with one foot. I don't know if it was supposed to be directed that it was AJ making sure he did what he was told, or if it was genuinely caught up in the moment, but I seem to remember the end of that match, AJ having to tell him to put his foot on him to pin him, which seemed a little bit off. So they've, on his debut, captured tag team gold. And from going from the women's tag team match and getting nothing right, we all picked that result, so we all got a point there. Then probably one of the shocks of the night after this. I'm not talking about the next match. The WWE 2K22 was announced. Like, whoever thought that would make a revival after the absolute shit can that was 2K20. But yeah, moving on. Does anybody want to guess, if they haven't already then seen, what happened to Shane McMahon in a Shane McMahon match?
He jumped off stuff and kind of got thrown to the ground off the top of things. And
Now, admittedly, I actually kind of watched this on delay. I wasn't feeling too great that weekend, so I ended up getting up early rather than staying up late and watching it. And at the point that the Braun Strowman Shane McMahon match was on, my two lads woke up and came downstairs and joined in watching WrestleMania at this point. So for me, that was kind of nice. But they do like Braun Strowman, which is bizarre because I'm pretty sure he's not really one for the kids as such. But they were well happy when Strowman threw Shane McMahon off the top of the cage. They really enjoyed that, which just justifies my decision for letting them watch wrestling, to be honest. Shane almost escaped the cage at one point, but Braun Strowman ripped a hole in the cage to stop him hitting the floor, which was it looked quite impressive. I thought I did quite like that. I thought that was genius.
That was cool. That was.
It didn't feel like it's something that's been too overdone before either. So I did quite enjoy that. What did you guys make of it?
That bit was really cool. I thought it was kind of like, like I said, I've not seen anything like that before. You kind of normally see what I'd predicted, where they go through the cage out onto the floor, as opposed to being pulled back in through the cage. Kind of builds him as the monster that he is, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pleased to say that both Andy and myself picked him to be the monster on that occasion, and picked up the points there, but no points in that match for Paul or Matt. So, the next match. One that we didn't really want to see, if I remember from the predictions podcast. One, Mr. Damian Priest and Bad Bunny versus John Morrison and The Miz. I have to say, I was kind of wrong. Like, I can't get away from it. Like, the guy put some effort in. People said it on the weekend, they've been saying it since. Easily the best celebrity performance that there's ever been, I would have said, inside a WWE ring. Even pulling out a Canadian destroyer, which is absolutely unheard of for somebody who'd been nowhere near the business, really. I'm pretty sure that overall that was kind of like what WWE were hoping for. They've now got that extra link, so I noticed that they've been absolutely hammering in the guys' tour dates on the shows afterwards. And I'm sure he'll probably be back at some point now. But actually, expected it to be absolute rubbish, and it was pretty good. It was easily better than the women's tag team match, put it that way, as a tag team spectacle. Anybody else got any apologies to the bunny they would like to make, or is everybody just saying it's still shit?
Well, no, it's like you said. I think it's like, obviously we've got the ready to grumble section. Obviously we need to hastily come up with a ready to. I can't think of a word that rhymes with grumble that sounds like apologise, but yeah. But like to be fair to me, he wasn't the sort of celebrity. He wasn't. this guy wasn't by any means the worst celebrity who'd been on the show, but he wasn't a Hugh Jackman type who basically got on the apron and just punched a guy. He actually got involved. He obviously trained to be involved in the match. He learned how to take some of the moves. I think there was at least one. I don't know if it was. Did he dive off the top rope again?
Yeah.
Like he did at the Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
Potentially to the outside.
Yeah.
So there was a couple. He took a couple of decent bumps as well. Obviously, the Canadian Destroyer is like obviously the majority of the praise for that has to go to Morrison for taking it and stuff like that. But fair play to him for actually sort of. I don't know if he suggested it, but he was obviously involved with it, and it didn't look bad, which that move particularly can look sloppy and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he very much outperformed his expectations. Let's put it that way.
They've got to have been at a point where he must have been in the performance centre, and they've got to the confidence level of right now that you can do this. What else do you want to try? And I wonder if that kind of
from like things that I've read and heard, it's like he moved down there for like the best part of 4 to 6 weeks, and was like in the performance centre every day, which like fair play kind of thing, because like you said, most celebrities turn up for a Raw or a SmackDown or whatever before, and then turn up for WrestleMania, and then fuck off with their big sack of money, never to be seen again until they put them into the Hall of Fame.
Logan Paul.
But I think so. Kind of in that, but yeah, and it's good. It's kind of I think it just sometimes and I suppose you've got to kind of think they're entertainment, and they want to hit different parts of the different different groups of people and stuff like that, and that type of thing. But I don't know. I think if I was one of the other wrestlers, I'd be pretty cheesed off. I think that's the thing that would winds me up at times, is the fact that there's a lot of people who didn't get to wrestle in WrestleMania. And perhaps will, but if you were a wrestler, you kind of think, well, the most important thing of my year is this, and this guy who, it might be the most important thing he's doing this year, but it's not going to be the most important thing that he's going to be doing for the rest of his career, kind of thing.
So we all went that way. We all said Bunny would win, so everybody picked up a point at that point. So coming into the main event, we had Bianca Belair challenging for the SmackDown Women's title against Sasha Banks, and I was a little bit worried about this one from the off on the basis of that they've been bigging her up as the EST of WWE after moving on from NXT, but yet the biggest stage of them all, and they played her NXT entrance video. So in front of all of those people, it had EST of NXT still on the screen, which I thought somebody must have spotted that, surely. But after
it's that thing, it's the little things. Like Matt covered this in our group about there was in the NXT
UK title,
the UK title. They showed up a graphic of the old WWE. In fact, if Stu wants to zoom in on that one that's right there, it was the old WWE UK title, whereas now it's the NXT UK title, and it's a small graphic change. It wouldn't take them 30 seconds to change the graphic on it, and it's just lazy. It's just somebody.
Perhaps acknowledging they're acknowledging that that's the superior belt, and that belt's far better than the new one.
Obviously, that must be it. That must be it. The only reason, the only explanation.
Because it's stuck on my wall, I'm obviously going to clearly agree with you. But in terms of that, I mean, it might sound really nitpicky, but the whole thing is that it's supposed to suspend your disbelief, and anything that takes you out of that, no matter how small it is, it does take away from it. So
it's that thing, isn't it? It gives people an excuse to sort of not complain as such, but it gives people an excuse to make a point about it. And obviously, we've picked up on it, so we won't be the only people who've picked up on it as well. So just little things. It's like you say, it's annoying.
Well, speaking of takeaways from the match, Belair took the title, and Sasha Banks took a hell of a whip to her stomach with Bianca Belair's hugely long ponytail. Has anybody actually had a chance to catch up with this? Because
no, but you could see within like 5 to 10 seconds after it hit her, you could see the welt starting to build on her stomach and stuff, and it was fair play to her, because like there was the stuff that came out afterwards about
somebody needs to check the weave for a blade. It was that bad. It did look horrendous.
There was the stuff that came out afterwards, obviously, of the sort of the fan camera footage of obviously the fact that Sasha had lost the match, but you could see how happy she was that she'd been involved in what she looked as a main event of WrestleMania, and she was obviously sat near the barricade, obviously trying to sort of look disappointed that she lost the match, but you could just see the huge smile that she had on her face because she was so happy that she'd been involved in a main event, and you could see her just like holding her stomach, and you were probably thinking, yeah, that's going to sting for a couple of days. So, but it sounded incredible, and it probably felt absolutely horrific.
The bruise was still there on SmackDown as well. So like nearly a week later, and it was still showing. It was pretty brutal, but she had every right to look pleased in a way because it was a good match. Really good finish tonight.
Certainly was.
Absolute.
Has he gone?
He's gone again.
He's gone!
I thought Matt had gone with him at one point, but Matt was just incredibly still. And I was like, no, he blinked.
To keep it on brand, I'll show that I've cracked open a on brand beer. So until he comes back,
strawberry and what? Cream pale, strawberry and cream pale.
Cream pale. I always see what it pours like.
There was an alert, and then there was and then he was gone.
I'm sure he'll come back.
That looks good.
I am the host now.
Oh, no, he's definitely gone.
I am the host.
This is a disaster.
I'm the. Hang on. How does that?
I mean,
how will he?
The cynical
fan.
his laptop. The cynical person in me would be like, well, we've got to the end of night one, so he was like, do you know what? This is the perfect time to take a break, or something like that.
This is the perfect time for me to leave.
I'd struggled to keep score there.
So, I think, off the top of my head, the only ones I didn't call was the Strowman and the women's tag. I think.
See, I had Strowman, Cesaro, and the women's tag. I think.
Frankly, trying to go through the first day card in my head, but he'll have the book. He'll be able to bring it back.
He'll know the result.
The thing is, as well, the podcast viewers and the podcast listeners will be able to tell from his general demeanour whether he's got the belt or not, because he's not the greatest, shall we say, poker player.
I mean, I've got the belt. I've got the belt.
His poker face could do with a little bit of work.
I don't really care who's allegedly got the belt.
And there is also this. We discussed this, and obviously there's the fact that we've had all these podcasts in the interim time, but the holder of the belt has never really changed hands, has it? So
we should have a WrestleMania champ, like has a crown or something, and they can wear that for the year.
Yeah.
What a suggestion!
Apologies for my terrible equipment that just made me duck out for a second there. But I clearly came back into the conversation where Matthew is more than aware of what is going on in these predictions and therefore the results. So make your own crown, Matthew. But well, I was getting to the end of the.
If needs be, is it the sort of thing where if you drop out of the call, you immediately forfeit at least one of the points from the predictions?
I mean, I'm not going to skip ahead too far, Paul, but hold that thought. So yeah, I was getting towards the end of the night one. I'm not sure. Apologies again for me dropping out, but as we said, Sasha Banks lost the title. However, predictions-wise, only I lost a point on that one. Damn it. I told you to hold that thought. So yeah, I was going on the basis of I didn't think that both Royal Rumble winners would win. And I ended up picking Edge in the second one. Also worked out really well, didn't it? Anyway, after night one, stand-ins for the predictions title. Myself and Matt were on 4 points after night one. Not too bad, 4 out of 7. Could have been much worse. But Andy and Paul were tied for the lead on 5 after night one. So with 7 matches to go, that was where we were standing. Night 2 began without, thankfully, the rain delay. No massive dramas or anything. But they did decide to kick it off with Orton versus The Fiend. Now,
well, you say kick it off with the Orton versus The Fiend. Obviously, we had a little bit of pirate shenanigans before that all started. So you know.
Sorry, I'd clearly erased that from my memory. Lead us through that, Paul.
Titus O'Neil and Hulk Hogan being the best damn pirates they could possibly be. What the fuck was that?
Now,
so bad.
This is the point where I clearly remember why I didn't write anything down, and it was because I was banned from making any kind of pirate jokes on the last podcast. So that's why I abstained. Clearly, see that one's still with you, boys, isn't it? Anyway, did anybody predict this at all?
Did anybody pick? I think everyone went The Fiend, didn't they?
Yeah, the answer is no. Nobody picked it. Everybody picked The Fiend to win.
But I did see something that came out on the internet where there was someone who sort of, obviously I'm assuming we were all a bit baffled by it and things like that, and then someone did say they've kind of, with what they've done, they've kind of painted himself out of a corner, because obviously up to this point The Fiend had never lost, and now obviously he's proved to be beatable. So it gave them the out of they can continue the Fiend storyline, but obviously it gives him like a fallible section of his character, I suppose is the best way to describe it. And that does make sense, I suppose. And obviously you'd imagine now the storyline continues with Alexa and him and frees Orton up to go and, I don't know.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
All right then.
No, she doesn't know what's happening either.
No, she doesn't. But it frees Orton up to go.
Are we just getting hijacked by all the technology tonight?
Yeah, basically. It frees Orton up to go and, smoke blunts with his best mate, so it's fine.
So, speaking of the development further on, and what Orton could be doing, have you seen the stuff with Matt Riddle from Raw? Decided that the Riddle pitched him a tag team proposition so they can become RK Bro. Which Orton just walked off shaking his head, but it was like, I'll get you a scooter and we'll put snake skin on it and I'll get fangs on the front. And Orton walks off shaking his head and he just goes, no fangs. It's just I enjoyed it. But just quickly going back to the Fiend stuff, the bit that we have skipped over is that before the match took place, they showed like a bit of like a clip of him walking out what looked like through the WrestleMania like backstage like light box, and regenerated from Toasted Fiend to regular Fiend. So he was actually back wrestling in his regular Fiend gear again, which, again, I know it was all like
whoa,
the best way to do it.
Whoa! Regular Fiend stuff with a different mask. So another new mask that they can put on their website to sell. That was nice.
It was very similar to the original though. Like other than the fact I think it had ears in it.
The guy that makes the masks probably got quite a substantial hospital bill to pay for, so I imagine he probably needs the money right now, having been hit by a car.
Oh God.
That was maybe a little nod then, and as well, right at the beginning of the match, just before it started, there was a very subtle tribute to the artist formerly known as Luke Harper as well, with the yeah going on. I don't know if anybody picked that up, but nice touch. Enjoyed that. So night 2 started particularly well for all of us. Nil point. As with night 1, they decided to put the horror show of the women's tag match on next, and that wasn't me being horrible about it before I saw it. This is me being horrible about it after I saw it. Last night's winners, Natalya and Tamina, got the title shot. I was really hoping it would be better than all of, like, you know, the Mandy falling on her backside, Dana falling out of her top, the weird stuff that went on in that first match, but unfortunately not. For me, there was too many delayed spots in the match where, like, multiple times, people you could actively be seen waiting to take a move, like whether it was waiting for somebody to climb to the top rope, whether it was waiting for somebody to be on the right place on the apron, and again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about it just slightly takes you out of the moment, and then kind of like it just really didn't help. And I'm sorry to say this, especially to one of the most experienced women in all of wrestling, but I'm not sure if Natalya took too many blows to the face or if she was just over-exaggerating or what, but Jesus Christ, the selling was way over. I know that she did get a kick in the mouth because I think her teeth had punctured the inside of her lip, but it was just like... It'd be like if somebody won the lottery and they went, yeah, cheers, thanks for that. And then if the same person got given 10 pence and they were like, oh yeah, it's kind of like that's the level of over exaggeration it kind of was for me. It was just weird, very weird. But this is where the theme of Night 2's predictions begin. Andy, Paul and me, no points. Matt was the only one that picked that result, so he picked up an early-ish point there. Kevin Owens' Sami Zayn was out next. Zayn joined at ringside by the aforementioned Logan Paul. As we discussed on the podcast, again, another really, really good wrestling match. Possibly the stunner at the end to Logan Paul might have been described as even better than the match, because it was pretty stiff one. But I thought some real hard-hitting wrestling, real decent suplexes, and especially the brain buster on the ring apron looked brutal in that match. You'd expect nothing less from those two, and it kind of looks like it's set to continue. So we're going to get another full-length feud out of it by the look of it from what happened on SmackDown following. And where are we? So there was only Paul that thought, you know, sticking with his red-headed brethren of picking Sami Zayn to win, and he didn't. So we all got a point apart from Paul, but, you know, sticking to it now. US title match followed. Everybody was, you know, wasn't really bothered about the match. Let's be fair. It was, what are they going to play Birds during Riddle's entrance again? And you will not be disappointed if you've not seen this yet. Go back and have a little look, because not only did Riddle have his birds at the point that his flip-flops left his feet, but sticking with the WrestleMania theme, they all had tiny pirate hats and eye patches on. So, yeah. So, just again, can't get Bianca Belair's Titantron video right. Can put pirate hats on tiny imaginary birds. Bizarre. But yeah, the best part about this match for me was the finish. Not necessarily the result, but the finish looked awesome. I thought, like, moonsault off the second rope, straight into a brogue kick, and he caught him big time. It definitely drew blood after it had landed. But yeah, Sheamus picking up the United States title. Anybody any thoughts on that one? Matt's just pointing to himself because he knows that he's got a point from this. Yes, Matt did pick up another point, as did I on that match. Unfortunately, none for Andy and Paul there. But yeah, any thoughts on the match particularly?
It's a funny one because obviously, like since that match, I was like, oh man, maybe they're going to bury Riddle. Then he had quite a strong showing on the Raw after WrestleMania, where obviously Lashley beat the living daylights out of him, but he kind of kept on going and kept on fighting and all that kind of thing. And was he in the Hurt Lock till he passed out? I
think he did tap again, but like at the end of the day, he had a match against the current WWE champion at any point is only going to improve your standings if you come out the other side. Sort of, and then he still looked good in the match, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it's with him. Obviously, they seem to like him. It's just where they take him next. Obviously, Vince loves this kind of stoner kind of like what he assumes everybody who smokes weed is like, kind of thing. It's good surely
that's got to be that character's just got to be ripped off a booking meeting with PSAs from some point in the late 80s, early 90s. Surely
he watched Dazed and Confused recently and was like, oh yeah, that's what they're all like.
But then not only did he have the strong showing against Lashley, but then actually picked up a win on Raw this past week over Randy Orton.
So that's a big push, isn't it? Yeah, that's quite a big push to get a win over old Randall.
Yeah, it's I'm with you on that. I thought that he would just sort of disappear into obscurity after losing that, but absolutely not so far. So can't complain there. Next match on the card was the Intercontinental title match. So they had both of the mid-card titles back to back. Big E was played live to the ring by Wale, and what would the Nigerian drum match actually turn out to be? I'm pretty sure we all said no DQ match, right? Yeah, just with musical instruments, right? Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They had like a gong and some drums and.
Hey, listen! Everyone knows that all they use in Nigeria to hit drums with is kendo sticks, so it's perfectly understandable. Those are best used drumsticks in Nigeria, so.
Maybe that's where they're going wrong. Maybe it was just that is the size of the drumstick, and they just got the scale of the drums wrong, so it looked weird.
Maybe, yeah. You have to sit at least 6 foot away from the drum to be able to strike it. Yeah, that's how drums normally work. So.
COVID drums.
Socially distant drumming.
Socially distant drumming. Yeah, I like it, man. I like it.
Well, Big E was just about to put Cruz away when the artist formerly known as Dabba Kato made an appearance. Now been given the moniker of Commander Aziz. So, they're definitely not going down the stereotyping bracket with this one, are they?
As a preemptive strike, do I need to put 30 seconds on my clock?
For Andy? Because he's that upset that Big E lost, or...
Oh, no, for you.
Why?
I imagine Andy's just, at this point, Andy's probably ready to throw the towel in because he's absolutely distraught that his man didn't win this match. So.
I had to put my Triceratops in for wash because it was just absolutely sopping with all the tears it soaked up over the weekend.
Can we not forget as well that as much as we give Andy stick for this, he actually did pick Big E to win that match, so it's almost like a double kick in the balls that not only did he not get a point,
and if there is one man that loves a double kick in the balls, it's this guy right here. Let's face it. Come on, look at me.
So, essentially, the newly formed alliance between those two handed the Intercontinental title to Apollo Crews, and Andy wasn't the only person to lose a point there, because I also picked Big E, leaving Matt and Paul to gain one on both of us there. 2 matches to go, and this is essentially where the predictions title was decided, because a correct result for Matt in this match meant that he was gonna win. So Rhea Ripley and Asuka took the semi-main event spot on night 2, and another one didn't disappoint. I was, aside from the women's tag match, because both nights, I don't think there was a terrible match on the card. I think they were all of a reasonable standard this time, so quite okay with that. These two ladies definitely traded blow for blow, hole for hole, counter for counter, and eventually, after encouraging Asuka to come back at her and kick her in the face, ducked it, hit a quick riptide for a bit of a shock ending, really. Both now, both of the women's titles are both on ladies that have only just really recently come to the rosters. I'm okay with that. They need to build the new stars, but they need to be careful with how they do it, because I don't know if it would make more sense to have a bit more experience on one of the sides at the moment. I'm not sure, so that you're essentially not going to end up playing the same storyline on both brands. Happy for Rhea Ripley, definitely a deserving champion. But now that they've gone with Belair and Ripley as the champions, I feel like they're going to need to give them both a decent amount of time to get established now.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because it is about getting people to watch. And what you don't want to happen is that people are turning off the television because they don't want to watch those two, and so they quickly take the belts off them. I think they're both engaging characters, and they should be able to kind of, as long as they put them with somebody who's experienced and put them with as their opponents, then it should be fine. But yeah, I think they've got to be really careful in the booking moving forward, because they could just be, if it goes poorly, it could be done and dusted as a champion within a month, or by the time the next pay-per-view happens. And
it's that weird thing. Like, I might be skipping ahead here, and this might be covered in the Any Other Business, so apologies for sort of skipping ahead, but it's that sort of thing where now you'd imagine that a perfect sort of feud for either one of them would sort of like fit sitting with a veteran of a Mickey James type would be a perfect opponent for either one of them to get them through the next 2 to 3 months, put them in a match against them for the next 2 to 3 pay-per-views, change the stipulations each time, maybe give Mickey like a disqualification win to keep the sort of the feud going, and then obviously they go and cut Mickey James from the company. So they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, where Mickey would be a perfect candidate there to take either one of them, show them exactly how you build a match, build a storyline, pace a match, etc., whatever, and they've kind of screwed themselves over by releasing her from the company there.
I think, obviously Ripley's gone straight into a storyline with Charlotte Flair, and it's amazing how quickly time passes by, because I was listening to something this week, and it's like, oh yeah, it's the 7th year on the main roster. You think, that's amazing, that's insane. So, you're kind of saying we'll talk about kind of last Thursday, no doubt. But, if that person's not going to wrestle and is not going to spend much time on television, then maybe they're just going to cut them loose, because the person, you kind of see someone who's been a veteran of 15, 20 years. Well, they've got the people who are 7, 8 years now and know how to construct a story and know how to build stuff. So, it's like I said, it's picking that person that, they've put Ripley in with Charlotte Flair, who she's already had a storyline with. You've got Asuka in there as well to kind of be a perfect foil within it. It's where they go with Belair. Is it does, is Sasha Banks, obviously Sasha Banks is going to be in there, kind of obviously for a rematch, but it's where they go after that, because I presume Sasha will go and have a little bit of time away again, possibly. But is it, Bayley coming in? It's where they go with the SmackDown side of it, because that SmackDown doesn't seem to have as many people. But then I suppose if the man comes back, and then that'll kind of work quite nicely as well, because all of those all came up to the main roster at a similar time.
Yeah, and you mentioned Becky there as well, and they seem to like to keep the real life couples together. So you would assume she's probably going to SmackDown if she does choose to return.
Particularly with the little one as well, kind of thing. Yeah. It's a
bit of on the women's division as well. A bit of breaking news today was that somebody who won't be making a return anytime soon has been announced that Ronda Rousey's expecting. So everybody sort of expected her back at the Rumble.
That's awesome for those. But that's great for those two, because they've been trying for a long time, haven't they?
Yeah, so. they announced it. They announced it earlier today.
That's lovely.
Apparently, she's about 4 months gone, so everybody can start getting excited about next year's Royal Rumble now instead.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go through the results from who got a point from that match, just to keep the winner until after we've discussed the main event. Main event was Roman Reigns defending the Universal title versus Daniel Bryan and the Royal Rumble winner from this year, Edge. Two things sum this up for me. Awesome match, absolutely wrong finish. And if you wanted to give me the clock, I could definitely do it on this, but we might need that for something else. Had some really good near falls.
Ooh,
I thought
two.
What?
You got two?
No, this could be one, but I think realistically, I think everybody could do a grumble about the finish to this match. Mine's probably more for a bit of a personal.
It's absolute nonsense. When has that ever been like a rule?
The no nonsense rule.
It's just bullshit, isn't it?
Well, like I said, I thought that had some really good near falls. Sometimes in a triple threat match, it can be difficult to get the match to build, to kind of get some momentum for all three people. But I thought they did that, which meant to me there was absolutely no reason for Jey Uso to have to come out, but he did. The thing that they're trying to do with this thing. So for those of you that haven't seen, the ending to the match was basically Roman Reigns pinning both men. However, Edge was on top of Daniel Bryan, and they made a bit of a thing online about it as well. Edge was on top, so therefore he would have been the winner. And then they never actually revisited that on TV. So I didn't understand that. That just seemed a bit weird as well. But they want to do this double pin thing. They want to hammer Roman Reigns again as this dominant champion. But how can they have this guy as a dominant champion when every single time Jey Uso's coming out? Like, have him as the chicken shit heel champion that needs help every time. Fine. Have him as a dominant champion. Fine. Don't do both at the same time, because it's just contradictory. It's just weird. But this is the kicker now, and this is where you lot will be like, at me. But all I can see now for him is just an inevitable crushing of everybody until a certain Rock the Dwayne Johnson has a spare weekend in April next year.
Let's face it, that has been on the cards forever. It's written in stone at this point in time. Carved by the gods, handed down to you, Stu, because you're such a huge fan of Dwayne.
No. No. We hark back to it before when we were talking about a guy who's only had his WrestleMania debut and Bad Bunny taking a spot away from somebody who's worked all year for it. you'd have thought The Rock would also know better because he's done this gig himself, been in that position, but then also taken that spot away from people in later years. Why does he doesn't need to come back and do it again. He's nothing to... The last time he came back, he absolutely ripped his abdominals to shreds, trying to sort of push himself. He clearly doesn't need to do it anymore. He's definitely not going to be short of change after doing Black Adam this year, is he? So, like, just no.
So, playing devil's advocate then, if you were to swap The Rock for Stone Cold Steve Austin, would you have the same thought process?
I think it's different for him particularly.
Because of your personal feelings towards Mr. Johnson?
No. I think that's wrong because you picked Stone Cold out particularly. He has been somebody who hasn't been able to come back because of his injury, and if there was the possibility that like Edge and like Daniel Bryan and the rest, where he was in the position to do it for one more time, that would sell more tickets than The Rock coming back for the 5th time, 6th time, 7th time.
I don't know if Austin doesn't come back because he can. I think physically his body would allow him to do one more. I just don't think he's got the desire there to actually do it and put his body through it. I think his body would be okay to do one more match. His neck's not so bad that he would be at risk of paralysis or something like that. Whereas obviously that's what Edge and Daniel Bryan were, and Page and people like that. But I don't think Austin's neck's that bad that he would. It would be.
It's his knees as well. I mean, watching him walk is just it looks painful. Like when you see him walking.
It's like, I always felt that when Kurt Angle came back.
I just don't think, like, for somebody, and Angle's a perfect example of that. And, you know, we can talk about all elderly wrestling if we want. But, like, Sting is just, it's just like, seriously, gents, just give it a rest now. You can't need the money. And it's just shitting on the legacy that you had before. You know, and for people to come back, and yeah, I just think when we watch the Undertaker matches, and you just think, just you need to stop now. And I think if Stone Cold came back, which I don't think he's going to, because he's got plenty of other things to be doing, you'd just watch him and you think, oh yeah, you can tell this guy's not wrestled in 20 years. You can tell this guy's, you know, that he just can't go. I think that's the thing, he can't go anymore.
I imagine that Dwayne will be using it to start his presidential run. 46% of Americans can't be wrong, Stu. Come on.
Well, has the last sort of person in office not taught you anything, Andrew?
No comment. I plead the fifth.
But just to hark back to your original question, Paul, it doesn't need to be someone who's come back 100 times. If they're going to bring anybody back, bring somebody like Punk, or do you know what? I'm even going to say it. Even a Cena. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not had that like full run back since he like officially left. So I think enough time has passed, and the generation of people that would be happy to see him will be also like coming. Like the people that were like 12, 13, 14 that thought Cena was cool in his heyday will now be of the point where they'll be like, I'm going to buy a shit ton more t-shirts now he's back for a run. Like, so that somebody like Cena would make more sense than The Rock to me. But the only thing not there is the fact that Cena's not related to him. They've instantly got a story, which is why it's going to happen, and I will be really not happy the entire time it's happening. You see, we told you we couldn't put a clock on because that's definitely taken way more than 30 seconds. So back to the task at hand. The final predictions. Yeah, everybody got the Rhea Ripley result right. I picked Edge. No. Paul picked Daniel Bryan. No. I'm not even going to try and scam half a point for Edge being on top of Daniel Bryan because it means absolutely nothing in the standings. So the points out of 7, just for night 2, Paul got 2 on night 2. So having been in the lead, then got 2. I got 3, so fared no better really. Andy also got 3. And out of a possible 7 points for night 2, Matt got 6. So, ladies and gentlemen, and new Cookie Cast presents Getting Over Pay-Per-View Predictions Champion, Mr. Matthew Moore, with an overall win of 10 points. So 10 out of a possible 14 as well. That is pretty good going.
That is pretty good going, to be fair.
When I was when I was watching it and I had the book nearby and I'm like, this one for Matt. Oh, fuck. Like, just I got to the point where I was like, I should really tot these up when it came. I knew it was like the second to last match. I was like, I should tot this up because it'd be cool if the last match decided it. No, Matt's ruined that. So
I saw the results for the first night. I thought, that's not too bad. I was like, I can't remember. I can never remember exactly what I predicted. I was like, I've got 3 or 4 there. And then the second night came, I'm like, fuck me. If I just picked Randy, which I normally do, I would have ran the slate the second night. I was like, oh.
So the title needs to be winging its way up to the northeast now to Mr. Moore. So congratulations. That's not the first time you've had it, is it?
No, I won it, and then we managed. I think I won it, and then there was either another prediction. There was either another pay-per-view very quickly afterwards. So I barely had it for like a week or something like that. So yeah.
Well, speaking of the next pay-per-view, which will obviously be the next time that we join you on Getting Over as well. Somebody want to throw me a clock up? Here we go.
Paul's usually in charge of the clock.
So basically, this I can fit this one into 30 seconds, which is why I kept it. But they've announced the next pay-per-view is for May the 6th.
You ready?
Yep.
And go.
Okay, so your pay-per-view traditionally after WrestleMania has generally been Backlash. People have known this for years and years and years. So why this year have they christened it WrestleMania Backlash? We don't need that. We're not like, just stop talking to us like we're stupid. We understand why you call it Backlash. I'm pretty sure even the little ones will understand why you called it Backlash. Just don't do it. It's just stupid.
I noticed that, and I was like, has it always been that? You know, when you have that moment, like, has it always been WrestleMania Backlash? And I've just not heard that bit. It's someone gone WrestleMania Backlash. And then, no.
Trying to make them jump with it. But like on the last podcast as well, we discussed, I brought it up about, this multi-million-dollar company definitely couldn't be bothered to do any kind of different advertising for WrestleMania this year because WrestleMania last year was kind of on hold and they just used all the pirate branding. Yeah, they're just using all that again for Backlash as well, so they're really getting their money's worth out of it, aren't they?
Just going to have it at the Raymond James Stadium again.
Well, if it means they can get fans in, they might well do that, yeah, who knows? I don't know.
It would surprise me.
So that does bring us to any other business. As was brought up briefly before, WrestleMania season always does bring around some change, whether it's titles or change of direction in stories. But for the last 2 years running, it's also brought us the 15th of April. You might want to take this, Max. I know you know about this one.
Yeah, so obviously, was it like this this time last year, 15th of April, was when they released everybody. Tons of people and people like stalwarts of the company, wasn't it? Like, you know, we really talked about like Mike Choda, probably absolutely shitted his name up there. Like the referee that have been there for like 30 odd years, and people, writers, and really kind of shitty things. That it's kind of like it's on the backdrop of this kind of the global pandemic starting. But then they proceeded to sell the rights to the WWE Network to Peacock for like $2 billion. But then we obviously got to the 15th of April this time, and another 10 people got released. And some of it, being sarcastic, cutting gentlemen that we are, we kind of made some kind of smart comments about Mojo Rawley better be shitting himself, and of course there he went. And there's like fewer people here and there. We kind of joked about, I bet they're crapping themselves, and people were released. But then they started. Well, the initial list was surprising. Mm-hmm. I think the headliners are Samoa Joe, Peyton Royce, Chelsea Green, and Mickey James would be the four main ones that I would pick as being like,
absolutely.
Samoa Joe he's a big deal, and and you kind of it's around that time. But as soon as the releases start happening, then of course the obligatory Cody with his hands to his ear kind of comes out. But I've already kind of made a snarky comment about all elite wrestling. Samoa Joe is, if they don't sign him, then what the fuck is going on? Because he is talented. Those four really are for a company that would say, this the UFC stuff are the bloated with talent that nobody really gives a shit about. Well, that's four people that people would give a shit about. Obviously Peyton Royce, or Casey Lee as she's now known as, gone back to being known as. Even if they went with just her, because I think like you said, Stu, I think they've really done the dirty on her. She's done some really good work, and she's a good promo, and she's a damn good wrestler. I could kind of see why they gave up on Billie Kay, because
I disagree with that. I disagree with that because there's a few things throughout that list, but Billie Kay worked herself into having a match on night one of WrestleMania, so she has featured on the biggest show of the year and gets shit canned 3 days later or whatever. Like, just no. Like, she was entertaining. The whole. I think I made a passing shot about the fact that at least she was prepared for it because she already had a resume ready. But all of that stuff with like the headshot resume stuff, like, it wasn't the best thing that they've ever done on SmackDown, but it kept her in the loop. Like, and people knew who she was, and like her not having a place and trying to find that place almost became her gimmick. But they've done the dirty on Royce and Kay by splitting them up in the first place, because they're too stubborn to admit that they made a mistake with that. And then rather than putting them back together and keeping a really decent pair on the roster, they've ended up getting rid. And like, it's happened to like people like Tucker as well. Like, again, not the biggest name on the card, worked quite nicely as a team with Otis. They obviously see something more in Otis and split him away. But again, he's not. He had the Money in the Bank briefcase essentially taken off him last year, so they're obviously not as hot on him as they were. Another tag team that's got split up, and someone's got canned because of it. But Samoa Joe commentated on WrestleMania, put up with the thunderstorm, wore a bloody bin bag on TV, for Christ's sake. Like, just, and then bid him off 3 or 4 days later. Just, I really don't get it. I really don't get it. I mean, I don't think anybody was surprised with, like we said, with Mojo. Nobody was probably particularly surprised with Bo Dallas or Wesley Blake either. But as I can only really echo what you said, Matt. Particularly those four. Mickey James was a disappointing one for me. Mickey James is my all-time favourite women's wrestler. I understood she wasn't going to be there for forever because she's she's not part of like the current generation that they want to push. But I thought when they brought her back that they might get one more title reign out of her to essentially put somebody else over, as we mentioned. And again, just wasted.
The worst thing about it is that you could kind of understand, and I'm going to get kind of you could understand like people like Tori Wilson and Stacey Keibler, and if they were there and hanging around, their in-ring skills aren't good, on like up there. Her in-ring skills are, I would put her on a par with a good few of the female wrestlers, and it just seems really short-sighted for a company that it's kind of like we're not worried, but we kind of are worried, and you just know that some of these people are within 3 months are going to be turning up at. We all know. Everybody knows who Mickie James's husband is. NWA are going to love having Mickie James there if she wants to go and work there. She's already worked at Impact, and we kind of go on about this. Well, you kind of see it going on like in other places. AEW are in desperate need of decent female wrestlers.
Yeah, and
if you release 3 or 4 decent female wrestlers who have ready-made gimmicks, if they can use them, Chelsea Green has, and I think like people kind of go, "Well, what's she going to do now? She's just Zack Ryder's missus." Well, if you've seen the stuff that she did in Impact, where she was like
Laurel Van Ness, wasn't she? The hot mess. The hot mess.
She was like dressed as a bride for a bit, and like all insane stuff like that. She'll be, these people will be fine, and people will take them into their companies, and if they won't be able to use the Iconics, but they'll be able to use something like that in Impact, in AEW, in Ring of Honor, or wherever they can be found. I just think it's, get rid of Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas has done nothing for years. Get rid of Mojo, because, his mate's not coming back anytime soon. So
I was going to say about that, like, that must have been quite a tough one for Vince, because, like, that's him finally, I think, saying, yeah, Gronk's not coming back.
I mean, maybe in like 2 or 3 years' time, and after he's won 2 or 3 more Super Bowls with old TB12, then he'll come back to wrestling, but not yet.
But just very quickly, just because it kind of popped into my brain when we were talking about Mickie James, I will sing her praises forever and a day, because I do think she is and has been that good for the company. But very recently, WWE themselves published a list of the top 50 female performers in their company of allegedly of all time. Now, Mickie James, for anybody, should be comfortably top 10, I would argue. They had her at 12. Not too far out, you might say. Ronda Rousey was at 9. Don't get that at all. And amongst the top, I mean, I don't think anybody would argue with Trish, because unfortunately for Mickie James, I guess, Trish was that kind of balance of somebody who worked to increase her skill set, but also then had the other side of it that was necessary at the time. But you've got people in the top 10, like Becky and Charlotte. Yeah, they're good, but can you really class them in an all-time list just yet? Sasha Banks, Asuka, again, in the top 10. All-time just yet, really? Feels a bit soon.
It's just that it's this kind of continual need to distance themselves from like the Attitude Era, Divas kind of thing, and you just think you're burying really kind of talented people who worked. Yeah, when they first came onto the screen, everybody's fully willing to acknowledge what Trish Stratus was when she first came onto the screen, and what Tori Wilson was when she came onto the screen and stuff like that, when she first came onto it. But they all worked hard to become better wrestlers, and yeah, they got shoved into the diva moniker. Well, that was something of the company's creation, not theirs. You know, and I think there's this kind of like, it's a dirty word now to be called a diva. I don't want to align myself with Maria Kanellis, because Jesus Christ, you know. But I think it's this kind of thing of, who'd want to be a diva? Who'd want to be a this? You know, like, you can only deal with what's in front of you. And yeah, maybe you're not as good an in-ring performer, but promos and the, you know, it's, when you look at it, it's a third. The in-ring performance is a third of everything. You know, you've got to be able to do a promo. You've got to be a good talker. You've got to look the right kind of way, to some extent. And the in-ring stuff is kind of part of it. But yeah, you can only kind of deal with what's put in front of you. And I think to shove it into the past is it's doing people a disservice who built. You can't kind of go, you know, no doubt we'll be talking about this in the football podcast. You can't shove history into a corner and say, that didn't happen. No. We've always respected female wrestlers. We definitely did not make them wrestle in gravy or mud or do bra and panties matches or dressing or, you know, gown matches, or we definitely didn't at the Royal Rumble in like 2000 or 1999 have a swimming suit contest where Mae Young kind of was ridiculed in front of everybody. No, that definitely didn't happen. No. Everything happened when we had the Divas Revolution, and then we had the was it Fatal 4-Way with Charlotte and all them kind of things, and we introduced the new women's title belt, and nothing happened before that. And I think there's this kind of attitude of there was nothing. No. We definitely didn't objectify women.
I feel like having looked at this list now, we could do an entire podcast on it. So we maybe need to pause it for now. My final thing with it will be is that Jazz. Everybody remember Jazz?
Yeah. Worked
incredibly well in the ring. They put her in at number 38. Carmella is 4 places higher. Anyway, as I mentioned, the next pay-per-view is WrestleMania Backlash, and it is on the 16th of May. So we do have a few weeks between now and then. So thank you very much for listening to us this time around. Hope that we've got you up to speed on WrestleMania. And again, congratulations to Mr. Moore for his 10 points. And being crowned the new champion. If he did better than Matt, feel free to drop us a comment. Let him know that he's rubbish at it. Come and take the title, because clearly none of us could do any better this time around. But yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.
So there we go. What do you think to that? A WrestleMania Roundup podcast. Congratulations to Matt on the win. Well done to you, sir. Yeah, there we go. YouTube watchers, subscribe, comment, like, share, do all of that stuff. It's fun. If you're listening to us and you like your audio, then you can still subscribe and you can still like and share wherever you get your podcasts from. So that's it for this one. Until the next pay-per-view, I'll leave this with you. But until then, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.